Well, that's it for today and tomorrow. I cannot stop. I just can't get that O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. Can't get it out of my head. Man, I'm out of time. I'm out of time. How's that one go? What is this? Drum sets? Black Friday. Save up to $35. 35% off. You got a Roland. What is it? The Roland something 25. I saw some little ad. Roland TD. Oh, they got a TD11 on sale. Well, Snoopy's getting a drum set. He's getting a TD25. Okay. Just FYI. Oh, excuse me. No, I'm over at Zero Hedge about to do this video and TD25. And I see of course, an advertisement pops up in my face. But I'm not seeing a Black Friday sale. Anyways. Been a while since we talked about Australia, mate. And if you'll recall, Webbot did talk about Australia. One of the problems coming, housing market. Just like a few other places it mentioned, but it definitely called out Australia. The party's over for Australia's $5.6 trillion housing frenzy. Earlier this month, we discussed whether the world's longest running bull market, 55 years, in Australian house prices had come to an end. This was UBS's view following the October 2017 monthly report on Australian house prices from CoreLogic suggested that measures to tighten credit standards and dissuade overseas buyers, especially Chinese in Sydney and Melbourne, have finally begun to bite. As CoreLogic's summary table shows, Sydney prices fell in October for the second month running and poised to lead national prices lower. We followed up that discussion with Why Australia's Economy is a House of Cards, in which Matt Barry and Craig Tyndall described how Australia's 3 decades-long economic expansion had mostly been the result of what they called dumb luck. As a whole, yes, Scotty, Preparation H does feel good as a whole, on the whole. Why don't you just call it Operation Ice Cream? What's that? You want some chocolate ice cream? Yes. You gotta love the Austin Powers, man. All of them. Part 1, 2, and 3. You just have to. Anyways, as a whole, the Australian economy has grown through a property bubble inflating on top of a mining bubble, built on top of a commodities bubble, driven by a China bubble. Now, Bloomberg has followed UBS in calling the end of the bull market while showing some of the frankly scary metrics for Australian housing versus the country's GDP. The party is finally winding down for Australia's housing market. How severe the hangover is will determine the economy's fate for years to come. After 5 years of surging prices, the market value of the nation's homes has ballooned to a $7.3 trillion or $5.6 trillion US dollar, or more than 4 times gross domestic product. Not even the US and the UK markets achieved such heights at their peaks a decade ago, 08, 09, before prices were really more like 2007, 8. Before prices, wait a minute. Yeah, wrong paragraph. Achieved such heights as their peaks a decade ago before prices spiraled lower and dragged their economies with them. Australia's obsession with property is firmly entrenched in the nation's economy and psyche, fueled by record low interest rates, generous tax breaks, banks hooked on mortgage lending, and primetime TV shows where home renovators are lauded like sporting heroes. For many, homes morphed into cash machines to finance loans for boats, cars, and investment properties. The upshot? Households are now twice as indebted as China's. One thing which should slow Australian property prices on the way down is that the governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, Philip Lowe, is still in no rush to raise rates. However, his hands are tied and he knows it. As Australia's New Daily reported, in striking the appropriate balance in our policy setting, we have paid close attention to trends in household borrowing, given the already high levels of debt. Over the past 4 years, household borrowing has increased at an average rate of 6.5%, while household income has increased at an average of just 3.5%, he said. An area of particular concern for Dr. Lowe is the slight growth in household incomes. Over the past 4 years, nominal average hourly earnings have grown at the slowest rate in many decades. This means that borrowers haven't been able to rely on rising incomes to reduce the real value of the debt repayments in the way they used to, he said. Here's Bloomberg on the same theme. Aussie households have racked up record private debts and aren't getting the pay raises to help service them. That's a core concern for the RBA and frequently cited as a deterrent for hiking interest rates. Macquarie Bank has said, is a mockery? Like making a mockery? What is that? Macquarie Bank has said such debt levels means any rate hikes, will have triple the impact on consumers than tightening cycles in the mid-1990s. With retail sales looking grim and wage growth near record lows, debt will very likely vex policymakers for years. So wait a minute, you mean to tell me they have a retail apocalypse happening over in the other part of the world, Australia, just like we do here? Just like weekly, I'm telling you about some other retail outlet that bit the dust. Another one bit the dust. Ooh. Swimming in debt. Australian households are the second most indebted in the entire world, only to be outdone, by the way, by apparently Australia. So we got, Australia, Switzerland, then Australia, then Canada. Switzerland, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Korea, UK, US, Singapore, China, Italy. And I find it amazing, Italy on the rocks, their banking crisis in full force, the, ECB printing money out of control to prop up everything over there. Yet Italy's way down there as far as household debt goes. US is significant, about twice as much as Italy. And Australia is about twice as much as the US. Wow. Put some more debt piles on the bobby. No shrimp. Put some debt piles on the bobby. Of course, as Bloomberg notes, the RBA is pointing out the resilience of the Australian financial system should it be hit by any shocks, somewhat reminiscent of old Ben Bernanke prior to the subprime crisis, of course. So far, the Reserve Bank of Australia has relied on banking regulators to apply the brakes with lending curbs. It reckons the financial system is well placed to withstand any shocks, but isn't so confident on consumers. The banks didn't fare so well in the 2008 crisis, nor will they in an Australian housing crisis, Bloomberg continues. On one hand, the dizzy valuations reflect a desirable location and strong population growth, but they also reflect the massive liabilities that are now tied to these assets. The risk is that it leaves the Australian economy extremely exposed, and a minor shock could become far more significant, said Danielle Blake, an economist at Morgan Stanley in Sydney. The increasing treatment, of housing as a financial commodity has seen borrowers rush into a Byzantine maze of mortgage-related products. That's made banks very profitable, but very exposed. Once again, while the RBA is satisfied that lenders have adequate buffers to cope with any downturn, banks may find it harder to value their collateral in a falling market as investors look to consolidate their portfolios of multiple homes, said Blake. Meantime, aside from the tighter lending standards and fewer overseas buyers, the major Australian cities are poised to see a wave of new supply, especially in apartments. As you'd expect, even that is not something that will change the rhetoric from the central bank, as Bloomberg notes. While cranes dot the Sydney skyline for miles, the central bank remains confident that population growth will eventually fill all those new apartments. Its worries about a Melbourne glut have eased off recently, with the main concern in the Brisbane market, where peak completion is expected this year, capping a 3-year period in which the number of apartments has increased by more than a third. Overseas buyers comprise of 15% of new dwelling purchases nationwide, according to the RBA. Having called the end of Australia's housing boom, UBS notes the cooling may be happening a bit more quickly than even we expected. Exactly. Say it again. Discretionary spending. It's what people have left over after all their bills are paid. And when you have one bill in particular, maybe two if you count healthcare costs, but for this example, we'll just use one. It's called your mortgage or your rent. Both grossly higher than they should be right now, and have been increasing all these last few years much more than your paycheck. Just like the blokes over in Australia. Okay? 3.5% pay increase per year, 6.5% for the housing. Oh, excuse me. I could not even kind of try to press that mute button or anything else or pause quick enough. Not happening. So, anyways, we all got the same problem. Most of our money goes into housing, whether that's, again, mortgage or rent related. Most of it goes into housing. We have less discretionary spending, which goes right directly to retail outlets, which is why they're closing left and right in America and apparently elsewhere, including Australia, as I just read in the very beginning. Retail sucks. Why does retail suck? Because people don't have the money to spend. And I'm already reading that, remember these massive lines we see, Black Friday. There's been couple little brawls. Nothing like we've seen in years past. It seemed like a relatively tame Black Friday. Even the wife and I being out a little bit. Hey, it's not as crazy as we thought it would be out here, the last couple of days. I was just over at Bass Pro Shops a little while ago today. It's Saturday. I'm doing this video. And Friday, of course, Black Friday, next day, there's still sales going on all weekend, right? And they've got their boats outside and their little side-by-sides and four-wheelers and all that good stuff. And then inside, there's sales and things. And that we actually went there to go to the restaurant. They got this really good shrimp, like blackened shrimp, linguine, Alfredo kind of a thing, something. And it comes with scallops. No thanks for the scallops. Can you just give me some extra shrimp? Yeah, thanks. We went there to eat and then pick up one of our kids who were spending the night at one of their friend's house. But when we were done, well, let's go walk around. We sit down so much, especially me with this, sitting on a desk all day, at least at work anyways. Let's go walk around. So we're looking, and I'm just thinking, man, this is Bass Pro Shops, huh? Got right in line, one guy in front of us. No big deal. We picked a couple of things, a couple of snacks we saw we want to try. But anyways, it has to. The central banks can intervene all they want. But once people hit that threshold of we're getting in debt, more and more debt because I can't pay my bills and have any discretional spending, you can't possibly, then again, maybe the whole thing in California, that it's a depression-like scene of how many homeless are there now. I just read that today. I almost thought about doing a video on it by itself. Which I thought, well, wait a minute, I think I did one a few weeks ago that talked about such a thing. But here's a little update to it. But nonetheless, record-breaking numbers of homeless in California, many who have full-time jobs. Just like in New York City, city workers and whatnot, full-time jobs working for the city, can't afford to live anywhere. Homeless shelters. You gotta let the boom and bust cycle come. You gotta let it come. But under Donald Trump, of course, and anyone else for that matter, any president, that ain't happening under my watch. No, let it go. So, anyways, got a guest over. Maybe I'll feature him in the next video if you're lucky. If you're lucky, I'll feature him. Remember the cat I was telling you about? $285 Ethereum? Or 283, whatever the hell it was. He's sitting right over there right now. Yo. And the price of Ethereum, as I'm speaking, is $466. Now that's freaking nice, but that's another video. I said what I needed to say on this one, all right? Take care.